You're listening to
Don't Take This Personally, a podcast about the business of creativity.
We are your hosts, wedding photographers, entrepreneurs, and friends, Cami Oliveria.
And Gabe Conover. Now let's get into it.
Let's get into it. And don't take it personally, whatever we're about to say.
Yes.
Don't. Do not take this personally.
Well.
Welcome back. It's so strange starting now without saying our intro that we just giggle through.
You're absolutely right.
But
more professional.
Here we are.
We're so cool.
We're ready to talk to you some more.
Yes, as always. So this next topic is it's interesting how we're talking about it because last week we were gonna record it and then I just couldn't do it. Because I was experiencing what we're about to talk about. Which is...
You know what? I realize it's like some big reveal, but if they're listening, they see the title and they already know. We're talking...
That's a great point. I know. I never thought about that.
They already know. Today we're talking about how to handle burnout.
Yes. And you know that already.
You already know that because you clicked play on this episode and burnout will certainly be in the title of it because we like to keep it simple like that.
We'll title this one Secret Topic.
Secret Topic, click here. Okay, I'm so excited to talk about this because this is something I think everyone can relate to, no matter what you do, particularly entrepreneurs. I think we're just in general maybe more prone to
People who make their own schedules and don't just work at the bare minimum.
I know, exactly. So, and something you and I are probably particularly intimately familiar with because we work a lot.
Yeah, and we love our jobs.
Oh, yeah.
So that leads to burnout, for sure.
I just want to give a definition. I love definitions.
Science.
Google says, burnout is the state of emotional, physical, and mental exhaustion caused by excessive and prolonged stress. It occurs when you feel overwhelmed, emotionally drained, and unable to meet daily demands.
If I'm ever unable to meet my daily demands, I am mad at myself, so.
Yeah, for real. So what are your personal signs of burnout?
Okay.
And maybe we can tell of what happened last week.
Yeah, so when I get burnt out, I completely disassociate myself with work in general. I do the bare minimum, and then I literally can't stand the thought of doing any work whatsoever. Which I used to think was a really bad thing, but the more I share this with Cami, she's just like, no, it sounds kind of good.
I think this sounds like an extremely healthy response to burnout. You're just like, I'm feeling burnt out, so I'm going to stop working. And do you feel like in those times you do take care of yourself?
Yes.
Okay, then that seems really healthy.
And I veg more than I normally allow myself to do. I just I'll watch TV. I just sit there and do nothing. Have zero expectations on myself. Yeah, I guess when I say it out loud, I'm like, I guess that's a pretty good thing.
That feels like a pretty healthy response to me.
So as we were talking about this last week, because we were going to record this episode last week, we're talking about it and Cammie's just looking at me and she's just like, so what you're saying is that you do what you're doing right now as we're talking.
I didn't say that, but I was trying to get you to come to that because I wrote in my notes because of what he was saying to me last week. Gabe, unmotivated, not creative, slacking off, avoid work. He just wants to do mindless stuff. And as he was kind of explaining to me, I was like, do you get kind of disassociative, would you say? And when we were prepping our content for these episodes, I just felt like I was talking to him and he wasn't hearing anything I was saying.
I was not here. I was not here at all.
So I was like, oh, so would you say you tend to disassociate? And he's like, yeah, I guess that's a good word. And I was like, okay, so how are you feeling today? Just out of curiosity.
And I was just like, yeah, I can't record today.
And then, we went through an hour of talking about these two episodes that we're working on today. And he was just like, hey, I cannot do this today. I'm like, yes, I know. Let's call it. So I really appreciated that you felt comfortable enough to just be like, I can't do this today. And I was like, great,
Yeah.
because I would be talking to myself if we did it today. So
I'd just be looking out the window.
yeah, I appreciated that you took care of yourself in that moment and called it. And now we're both in great spirits.
And then
today,
I just went
great.
home and I literally had zero expectations on myself.
That's
It was
so
awesome.
good. What did you do all day?
I watched this new show called Solar Opposites.
Oh.
It's on Hulu.
Great.
That's the creators of Rick and Morty.
Okay. Oh, yeah. We were talking about that on Friday.
So yeah, that's what I did.
Great.
And that's
Good for
okay.
you.
So yeah, I disassociate, and then most of it is just that I'm not excited about work. And so
Yeah.
if I'm ever not excited about work, something's wrong.
Okay.
Because I love my job.
So that is your kind of indication to you.
Correct.
That something is not going right when you're feeling not excited, generally unmotivated.
I don't care about my goals, which I have lofty goals.
Mm-hmm.
So if I see those things, I know that I'm not in a good headspace. So yeah, what about you?
Hearing all that, I think you handle that just fine. You give yourself that, which is cool. And why I see that as a positive is because when I'm burnt out, I swing to the polar opposite. I have low motivation and low energy, but I kind of force myself to keep working no matter what. So like for me, I swing into like frantic, unmanageable busyness and distraction. And I can tell I'm probably burnt out when I'm not making the time to do basic things for myself. Like I have been known in the past to like not shower for days.
Wow.
Because I feel so, and it's not because I'm just like laying around resting. It's because like in those moments when I'm my most burnt out, I feel like I'm just existing to work. So I will like work and get myself at my computer from the time I wake up to the time I fall asleep at it. I forget to eat. Victor comes in all the time and is like, yo, have you eaten lunch? I've talked about this before where I just like swing to places of just like absolute frantic, nonsensical busyness and will ignore everything else, all self-care, basic need things. I'll forget to eat. I won't work out. I won't shower. And then as a result, I can tell I'm not excited about work. So kind of same like what Gabe was saying, when I'm not excited to go shoot and I'm feeling really resentful of having to go out and shoot, that's when I can tell I'm probably feeling burnt out.
Yeah.
When I'm not feeling excited about weddings. I'm a very naturally excited person.
Right.
So when I'm starting to not feel excited, when I'm starting to dread the work, or another weird thing is when I just feel like my work is good enough and I don't feel excited about it. Like there was a stretch, particularly last year, probably because I was just like scared of surviving. Living through a pandemic was so traumatic, and then working through a pandemic was so hard. I would shoot and I like knew objectively it was fine.
Yeah.
But I wasn't excited and I didn't feel connected to it. Like I knew I was just doing the bare minimum to get the job done. And I was like, is this good? I think it's good. Is it impressive? Like I shot in some cool places and I was like, is this even cool? I can't tell. So there's something creatively definitely that shuts off in me when I'm feeling burnt out. And I mean, another example is in 2018, I was traveling almost every single week. I traveled like 30 times that year during wedding season because I was going back and forth between Washington and San Diego. I did get pneumonia that year, and I was sick for about 4 months. Like I just never got better. Like I got really sick.
That sounds terrible.
And then I just kept getting sicker and staying sicker, and I could never get better because every time I would like start to get better, I'd go fly again and travel again, and then I would just get sick. Like that summer and early fall of 2018 was just like a constant cycle of getting sick and getting sicker and taking one step forward and 5 steps back. And I did develop like an acute pneumonia that year. I was straight up sick for so long, and then I was tired for like 6 months. At the end of 2018 to the start of 2019, I like went and got blood work done a few times because I was like, something is wrong with me. I'm so tired and I can't shake it. And that, my friends, is when I started outsourcing my editing. And then I really have found a lot of balance in my life since then. But in case you're wondering what made me do it, I tell stories about that time. Like, man, I was so resistant to outsourcing my editing. I don't think people understand how resistant I was. It was to the point where I was sick for almost an entire year before someone was like, you have to change something or like you're going to work yourself to death. So Anyways, that's how I know I'm burnt out. If I'm feeling sick and tired and can't catch up on it, if I'm not feeling excited when I'm just working too much, that's how I know. And I'm there a lot. I find myself here often, actually. So this is something that comes up for me a lot because I'm not very good at avoiding burnout.
So what are your triggers?
What are my triggers?
Like what are the things that trigger you into being burnt out?
Oh yeah, when I'm just working too much, which is I realize that's like a no-duh, so it's kind of a situation, but when it's like when I have more shooting days than I do office days a week, super burnt out. And I think because even though I'm really outgoing, time with people does make me pretty tired. I'm like that definition of like outgoing introvert or whatever. So like I can't have more output energy to office days. Like being a wedding photographer is perfect for me because I can like be my most energetic outgoing self and then I can like hide in my office all week and like recharge and then do it again. And so when there's not a good balance of time to myself versus time out with clients, that is a trigger for me. I'll like start to really feel that physically. So there's that. And I think I'm going to talk about this in how to avoid it. So I'm just going to touch on it briefly, but when I'm looking at my schedule and it's really easy for me to accidentally work like 60 to 70 hours a week because I used to not consider my meetings and my shooting work. Like to me in my head, my time at my computer editing was the only work. So I would make myself be at my computer
crazy.
for 40 to 50 hours a week minimum, in addition to like more shooting hours. And then before I knew it, I was working like, it's like, no wonder I'm burnt out. I'm working like 60, 70 hour weeks. It's insane. So anyways, I'm going to elaborate more on that later.
That is crazy.
But that's a trigger for me. So just like overworking and not having the time to be social. And yeah, I think overworking, number one, like not respecting and honoring my own boundaries around how much I want to be shooting.
Wow.
What are your triggers?
I don't. I make it very obvious. Like, I don't know. I'm ultra communicative with my wife and my kids. Like when it's going to be like, okay, like I'm going to be working a lot the next couple of weeks. It should be over after 2 weeks. I haven't felt burnt out because of overworking for a while. I felt burnt out because of feeling like I'm trying really hard. Like over the last year with the pandemic and stuff, like that really burnt me out. Was like every single postponement and every single thing that just couldn't happen because things keep getting extended or taking longer than everyone thinks and whatever. Like that burnt me out in like a psychological way.
Same, for sure.
But I mean, so I don't know. That's an unusual case. But for me, the biggest things that cause my burnout are unresolved issues. Because I just, even in my personal life, if someone, let's say like, you know, someone confronts me about something or like has a problem with me for some reason, I cannot continue on with my life until I've resolved our issues with that person.
I'm not same way.
I'm like, I could probably get really annoying and I pester them and I'm just like, hey, let's talk about it. Let's fix this.
The worst thing you could ever do to me is be like, hey, Cami, I have to talk to you. Can we talk tomorrow night?
Oh my. Yeah, it's
my
the
next
worst.
day and a half until that happens is ruined. It's gone. Like
Yeah.
I will do nothing but fester over that. Like the biggest gift you can give me if you have to talk to me is call me out of the blue or don't do that because then I'll be put on the spot. Email me all your thoughts and just send it to me. That's the best thing you could do for me.
Yeah, I don't know, even that, because then I'd just respond and I wouldn't have their response yet, and it would just, that would bug me.
So I would want the email so I could prepare, but then we would need a call. So we can set up a call for the next day, but tell me what it's about.
Yeah, I totally get that. I can relate to that. So same thing with work. If something like comes up that really stresses me out, I need to fix it right away. So the example for last week, for instance, is I had a really big expense for my new studio that I just wasn't expecting and wasn't prepared for and didn't budget for. And it also just stressed me out that like I really can't fully open until this is done, because I have to be up to code, which is a whole other ball game. And that just like looming over my head caused me to not be able to really do anything because I felt like I was stagnant in my business until those things were resolved. So like, why does the rest of it even matter is almost my mindset. Like this isn't going to do anything because I can't do anything until this is done anyway. So why invest any time in anything else? So I feel like that's probably why I act the way that I do too.
Interesting.
Yeah. And then getting off track with like, because I'm a very organized person. getting off track with like if you've listened to our business approach schedule or our business approach episode, getting like super off track with that really messes me up.
So like life things that come up.
Yeah, when
drives me crazy
random
too.
life stuff comes up that just like really throws you off, and that things that you have to address, things you have to make time for, or even little work things that you weren't expecting. Like I had a hiccup with work yesterday where like some program wasn't working for hours, and I like messed things up, and it took a couple hours out of my day that I could have spent doing something else.
Nothing will annoy me more than that. Like things I was not planning for coming up, that will set me off. That's an anxiety trait, actually.
Oh, really?
Yeah. That's like an anxiety thing when you think your days are going to go a certain way and they don't. It makes you like a little. I'm not the most flexible.
Yeah,
that's like an anxiety.
It burns
brain.
me out for like the rest of the day. So that little things like that don't like ruin my week or anything like that. But for the rest of the day, I'm just like, okay, that ruined my day. I can't do anything else. Time to go home.
Time to go home. Today's ruined. Today's over.
Today's ruined. It's ruined.
See, again, I think that's kind of a healthy way to approach that, because my response to that would just be work 4 more hours at night to make up for all of that.
Kill me.
So I think that's really interesting. Okay, so once we are burnt out and we've recognized it, we see the signs, what do we do? Like when you're already in it, what do you do?
When you're already in it?
Like when you're already burnt out, what do you do?
Oh, well, I allow myself to veg, and I allow myself to...
I think that's really good.
Yeah, to just... Because so this is what we were talking about earlier, Cami and I, is that when you are burnt out, you're two things, and you force yourself to work like Cami does. Two things happen. One, you don't do it nearly at the like speed, or if you don't have nearly as much efficiency in getting that work done.
Nope.
And second, the quality of your work is way lower too. So in my head, just thinking from a logical standpoint, I'm like, it's actually making things even worse if I force myself to continue to work, rather than allowing myself a day to recharge, or who knows how many days to recharge, and then having more like mental energy to efficiently get those things done and produce those things at a much higher quality than I would have if I just like powered through it.
So you're able to you just like give yourself the opportunity to veg. Amazing.
And the one thing though that can get in the way is deadlines, obviously. And I take deadlines very seriously. I know Cami does too. So for me, it's just like, if I need that time to completely turn off, I look for like, okay, when's the next opportunity that I can have that? If I have a shoot tomorrow, it can't be then. So maybe it's the next day. And then I just try to get all of my deadlines finished so that I can, before that day, so that I can actually veg without like feeling like I'm failing my clients.
Yeah. And on that note, we talk about this so much in my household that we really just need to go to like good enough mode.
I love that phrase. It's a great
It's
phrase.
okay to just do good enough. Like other people who have regular jobs, who have bosses and a job they go into, there are weeks when they're just kind of coasting. And the reality is we can't not deliver photos or whatever. We have clients we're responsible to. We have deadlines. We have to stay committed to those things. But sometimes it's okay to just do that. Just kind of bare minimum stuff. Like when I was going into May, because I accidentally overbooked myself in May. Oops. I was having quite like an anxiety meltdown moment about it, and Victor, my husband, was just like, all right, so we're about to get ready for a very busy month. You just have to kind of treat this like a 9 to 5. Just go in with good enough energy. Your 70% for your clients is going to be like most people's 105%.
That's true.
Just, you'll still get all the work done. You'll still do it excellently. But like all of these extra projects we just put on ourselves that don't actually matter.
Love that.
Those I kind of just took off my radar for the month. Like the other things I'm working on, those don't matter right now, because right now I am just kind of in bare minimum mode, which is still like 40-hour work weeks, so it's like I don't have time for the other projects, and that's okay. That was my lesson, to not book this much for the months coming up. And I also think it's important to just I don't know, man, I was just gonna repeat myself, but just like giving yourself the permission to just do good enough. Like it's okay. Like we're obsessed with what we do. I realized that was the thing I just said. Like it's literally okay to just do good enough.
Yes.
And like we're all so obsessed with what we do. We put so much pressure on ourselves. We're so hard on ourselves that like I think for a lot of us, our 75% is going to be like most people's over 100%.
That's a great point too.
Yeah.
The other thing too is that This doesn't apply to everyone, but most entrepreneurs, most of us have busy seasons and slow seasons, and especially photographers, because people don't get married over the winter for the most part. So I used to have this mindset where I was like, oh, well, I need to stay consistent with everything that I'm doing throughout the entire year. I need to stay up to date with all of my advertising that I'm doing. And like, while I'm busy and shooting, you know, all the bulk of my weddings over the summer.
No, you really don't.
And I was like, my mindset I was telling Cammie that I used to feel that way, but now my mindset is like, okay, well, we're much slower over the winter, so we have to try a little bit harder to get advertising work out there. But shooting weddings and being around people is advertising.
And the best kind.
That's literally what it is, and it's the best kind.
Yeah.
So you are doing way more advertising work during that time than you are over the winter. So what can you drop? What over your busy season can you drop from your workload?
Yeah.
So that you just can focus on the tasks at hand.
Yeah, I think the key here is just like letting go of the projects that don't matter right now and know that you did that to yourself.
Yes.
Like a few very specific things I'm working on right now. I like have so much shame and anxiety when like I don't get them done as fast as I thought I would, and then all of a sudden I'm working on my days off, and then I was like, wait, why am I working on this project on my days off? Nobody made up that deadline but myself. Like that was my own doing. It's not keeping me from getting clients and whatever. Years from now, I'm not going to look back and be like, man, I'm so glad I spent all my days off that year working on that project that didn't actually matter, you know? Like it's just... So anyways, no
one's gonna look at like me and Cammie over the summer and be like, oh, I missed when they were launching all of this stuff. They're gonna be excited about all of the other stuff that we're doing.
Yeah, save that stuff for slow months. So anyways, and then on that note, I guess this kind of bleeds into the next point of how we prevent this in the future really well, but it's like, I would say undershoot your schedule a little bit. Like, if my max shooting days a month is 10, I'm going to say it's 8 because life will come up and you may get set back. So for me, fully booked, if I have a number that I'm the most comfortable with, whether it's 10 shooting days a month or whatever it is, I'm going to say I stop my books at 8 because I'm bad at saying no. So that means some months I'm going to end up with 9, maybe 10 because I'm bad at saying no. And then that also means if life stuff comes up that sets us back or whatever, we're not going to freak out. And also on that note, if I'm feeling burnt out, if, you know, like I said earlier in this episode, I used to only consider my computer time work time. I don't know why I equated that. Maybe it's because shooting is so fun. It was like hard for me to believe that could be part of the work, even though that is the work. I don't believe
my job is real.
It's literally, I think I still deal with a lot of that, and so I thought that like the hours in front of the computer are the only thing, the only time I could consider work. So if I'm feeling burnt out, I take a look at my weeks. And I'm like, how much did I shoot this week? And, you know, if I had like 2 weddings and an engagement shoot or whatever, sometimes that can be between 15 and 20 hours a week of shooting time, you know?
Yeah.
So how much work time am I doing outside of the shoots? Is it 40 hours? Which it used to be, because then that just means I just put myself through a 60-hour work week when I didn't have to. Ugh. So when I'm feeling burnt out, I look at my time and I'm like, okay, I'm shooting about 15 hours a week. I don't need to feel bad by doing like 5-hour work days a few days a week, because that's going to add up to 40-hour work weeks, you know? So anyways, I just think that's important. Like, look at your time and look at all the things you do for your business, because that's all work. And so I'm kind of over feeling bad for like taking a day off here and there outside of my allotted day off or whatever.
True.
Because then I look at my time and I'm like, I've been working like 8-hour days, multiple days in a row, and then shooting 8 to 10 hours a day for a few days in a row. That's already like a 50-hour work week. Totally. I just spilled coffee on my notepad. That's so sad. So anyways, okay.
I have nothing to offer you.
That's fine. It doesn't matter. So I don't know if that little tangent made sense. I just wanted, for any other photographers out there, I think if I felt this way, there has to be other people who do too. Yeah. You have to look at everything you do for your business as work time. Meetings, calls, emails, computer time, shooting time, all the things. That's all work. So count all of that. Yeah. And if you are shooting so much, you can't keep up with your workload with a 20-hour editing week or whatever, like all your remaining hours, that means you're shooting too much, and or you need to start outsourcing stuff.
Yeah.
Boom.
Boom. Boom.
Boom. So, okay. Let's wrap this up. How do we prevent it?
I think one of the biggest things is acknowledging your busy time, one, and being willing to adapt your tasks and drop things during your busy time.
Yep.
I would also say I loved Cammie's point about undershooting your capacity.
Yep.
What is that the good way to say it?
Yeah.
Because I've been in that situation too before where I'm like, oh, I feel like I could handle shooting 3 times a week. And then like I schedule a full month of shooting 3 times a week and I'm like, oh,
Yeah.
that was a lot.
Yeah, undershoot it because stuff's going to come
Yeah,
up.
and like, things would happen that made like shoots longer or whatever it is, or like you had longer drives than you expected. I don't know. Anything can happen.
That just doesn't leave any room for error.
Yeah, leave room for error. There it is. That's the main thing.
I actually really I learned this from an India Earl IGTV, where she was saying if you think something's going to take you a half hour, allow an hour for it.
Brilliant. That is so true.
And I learned this when she was talking about structuring your editing time.
Okay.
She's like, if it takes 2 days for me to edit a wedding, I'm going to give myself 5. And this concept was mind-blowing to me because I realized this is the trap I fall into. Like, I schedule my life so perfectly that I leave no room for error, and then when error comes, because we are humans, it sets me off and I just like lose control of everything. So and that's even the strategy on wedding days. Like, if family photos take 20 minutes, allow 40. And like, you're not going to be stressed anymore.
Yeah, no, that's so true. That's so true.
Yeah.
I always, when I'm scheduling out days with couples, is I'll be like, hey, give more time. I'm efficient and most likely it'll take this amount of time, but give more time. Yeah. Because you never know. And almost every time things go wrong because that's how wedding days are.
So don't plan everything that perfectly because you're setting yourself up for massive failure. So
don't set yourself up for massive failure.
So acknowledge what triggers you and set boundaries and stick to them. But also, I think it's really important to not compare yourself to other people's boundaries. And this is something that really sticks with me, that I need to remind myself constantly. If other people are doing something, I feel like I have to be doing that way too, which, like, a great example is I'm kind of in a phase of life where I don't like shooting multiple weddings in a weekend. I prefer to just have one wedding a weekend, and then I can spend that whole next day like looking at previews and then resting and then hanging out with friends or whatever. And I just find that like my energy is more sustained that way, and also I can't keep up with the editing load from back-to-back weddings in my work week. Like, it will take my entire work week just to get those previews out, and I'm just like never catching up. So that's kind of what I'm settling into. And then it makes me feel bad when other photographers are like, oh, I love taking multiple weddings a weekend, I would totally do that. And then it makes me be like, well, what's wrong with me that I can't do that? And then that keeps me
so interesting.
And then that keeps me doing things that don't serve me anymore just because other people do. And so the big thing around burnout and setting boundaries is just really being okay and comfortable with the fact that my boundaries are going to be different than other people's. And that's literally why we go into starting a business. To create the life we want. So like, why am I so obsessed with like everyone doing everything the same as me? Because the whole point is that we can create the life we want. So recognize what triggers you, and just like accept that burnout will come, because we're entrepreneurs, we're driven, we're motivated, this will happen, but have systems in place that you can fall back on when you do hit that, so that you can protect your energy for yourself and your clients, because you don't have to be doing everything all the time. It really doesn't matter. Things don't matter as much as we think they do. So we can take care of ourselves. For me, when I'm burnt out, the biggest thing is, what can I do to protect my energy so I can still show up in an excited way for my clients? And like Gabe the other week, when he was feeling really burnt out, he was telling me like, I'm, struggling, I'm feeling this way, so like I've let social media go this week. That was an amazing example of that. Like, your business isn't going to fall apart if you take a step back from that for 1 week. I've done that a lot, where I've just been like, I need to just remove posting from my brain this week. So that was an example of that. Like, you let that go for that week, and then you felt better, and when you felt better, you bounced back into it, and like, it doesn't matter.
Yeah, exactly. No, that's such a great point. And doing that throughout the year, like, what can you drop? What are the things that aren't performing as well as other things, so that you feel like you can confidently drop them without actually losing out on it much, Wow.
I hope this was helpful.
I think it was.
I think it was.
We're so helpful.
We're so helpful. Yeah, just don't be afraid of burnout. It will come. Figure out what you need to take care of yourself when you're in those moments, and then just course correct for the future.
Yeah, and
You'll be
and
okay.
also remember that like people do understand for the most part. I mean, there are those people that are terrible, but most people understand, and it's hard for us as business owners to take it more seriously because it's our business at the same time that it's us.
Yeah.
So allow yourself to be a human being.
Yeah. Let me tell you, I have never regretted not working. You know what I mean? Like, I have never regretted taking that half day and just, like, doing something for myself.
Yes,
or playing
that's
pickleball in
so
the sun, or going to
true.
the beach, or cutting that work day short and having a margarita. There's just, like, we have to take care of ourselves.
No regrets.
No regrets. Oh, my gosh, we're such San Diegans. Like, I'm just
You
gonna
just go to the beach.
I'm just gonna take a half
get
day and go to the
some
beach,
tacos.
have some rooftop tacos. Literally, though, that's why I moved here. So literally, that's why I moved here. So I'm like really interested in like breaking the burnout cycles because I like moved here for a reason, and I fucking love my life,
Good.
and I'm gonna live it. So, all right.
Amen to that.
That's all.
See you later.
Bye.